Hi there. Today I want to talk a little bit about Dojo Resources. So Dojo Resources are a pretty neat way that you can make these resource-aware widgets in Dojo based off of these resource templates. And what's really cool is that the data for these templates is encapsulated inside of them. So it's not necessarily a global data store. This isn't like working with processes and commands, and it's also not like having local state like with the with cache, right? What you're doing is you create these small templates that fetch data from somewhere, and then you can then distribute that template across multiple widgets. And you might have a widget that would be responsible for possibly displaying that information in a tabular format, another widget that could display the information as a chart, and so on and so forth. So it's really useful for a lot of different purposes. The Dojo documentation goes in a lot more detail, has a lot more information about how you could create these resources, some basic usage and stuff. So I highly recommend that you go and check those out. What I want to do today is just do a quick rundown how you can create a template and then create a widget that is capable of using that template. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a template. And in order to use this template, we're going to have to bring in some modules here. So we're going to bring in the create resource template and default find. And default find is because this resource template has to have some default options for it. So we're going to provide that to the resource template. So what do I want to do? So in my simple little demo here, I'm going to go ahead and use the geocoding service from the arcgis.com, and we're going to find some coffee shops. All right, so I know what this request needs to look like. I've looked at documentation, so I'm not going to go into detail on that. So what I want to do is create a resource template that can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and export a default create resource template. I'm going to type it unknown because I don't really know what the results are going to be. I could look it up and I could find out what I expect these results to get, how I'm going to transform them. But in all honesty, this is a demo, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just do what I need to do. So we have a find property here. And again, we're going to use default find. And what you are most likely going to do as a creator of these resource templates is you're going to be more concerned about the read method. All right, so read is going to be an async method because it's going to be fetching some data. You're going to get the request, and you're going to have to find a way to update the state of this data inside of the resource template, which is going to be using this put command. So I'm going to get my function written here. Okay, so now what I want to do is I need to be able to get my request. So I'm going to get the query. I'm going to extract that from the request. So here's my query. And from that query, I'm going to extract a location. And this is how I'm going to go ahead and find the, spelled it. Location, yeah. This is how I'm going to go and find these different coffee shops I want to find for my application. So what's the error it's giving me here? So it's not as extent type unknown. I guess maybe I have to type it as any. I thought I had to type it unknown. We'll go with any just to have it. Okay, so now what I need to create some parameters. They're going to be passed fetch. One of them is going to be telling it that I want the format as JSON. Category is going to be coffee shop. The location I'm going to look for will be whatever location I'm passed. And the fields I want are going to be the place address field and the place name field. And I'll get a maximum number of, oh, I don't know, let's say 10 locations here. Perfect. Now I need to do a little bit of work to turn those this object into a URL encoded string. So I'm just going to do it like so. What kind of error is giving me here? That's okay. I think this is just a TS config error, which I don't know if I can do it in here. Here we go. Suppress those errors. We'll say yes. There we go. Okay, so I need to convert this object into a parameters I could use for a URL encoded string. And then I need to go ahead and create that URL. Now that I have an array of the parameters, I could do it like so. So now I need to get me some data. So data is going to be equal to await. Oops. And I'm going to fetch that URL. Then I'm going to get my results from there. And I just happen to know the results I get back are going to have a property on them called candidates. Candidates. Awesome. So now that I have my results, I need to update the state of the resource template, the data that it has. So it's got its own state in there. And you do that with the put command that I pulled from the arguments I received. So this takes a few properties. The data is going to be the candidates. The total is going to be the candidates.length. There we go. And I need to pass the request along with it. So if you look at the documentation right now for the resource templates, by default, they are somewhat designed to handle things like pagination, a lot of data that you can scroll through and stuff. I'm not necessarily doing that in this case, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep it simple. Okay, so that is my resource template. I mean, that is all I need to do there for that template. So now what I need to do is I need to actually use that resource template somewhere. So let's see how I could use it inside of my widget that says Hello Dojo Sandbox. So I need to bring a few more things in here. I'm bringing in the create resource middleware helper, and I'm bringing in the template itself. And then down here, I'm going to go and create my resource. And that's going to be equal to create resource middleware. So now I'm going to pass that resource middleware to the widget like I would any other middleware. Now what I can do is that in my function here, I can go and get some information out of here. You'll notice I'm extracting the ID for the widget. And that's because every widget in Dojo has a unique ID. And the reason for this is that when you're passing this resource template around, Dojo is going to keep track of how it's being used and that you're pulling data for this particular widget and not just any other widget that might be using it. Right, so I'm in the middleware, and there's my resource middleware that I can now use. So with the resource middleware, I get a few things on here that are really useful for me as a developer. I'm going to get this helper function to create options, get or read to get the data. It's also going to tell me whether or not it's failed or the resource template is currently loading, right? So that's really useful. So what I do here now is I'm going to get my options by using the create options helper, pass it the ID. Now I'm hooked up my resource with the widget. Well, I mean, it's hooked up with the middleware, but now it's going to go ahead and pull my data for this widget. So everything's kind of kept in check. So I need my current options, right? So what are my options I want to pass to it? So that is going to be using this options helper to find my query. That query is going to have location, and that provide a latitude and longitude. Actually, I think this is longitude, latitude in this array here. right, so now what I can do is I'm going to get some other helpers in here. So what I'm going to do is we're using the get or read helper. I'm going to go ahead and pass it the template, pass my options, and get my result. And this will be my candidates in here. I'm also going to find out, am I currently loading, or has the request in the resource template failed? So now I can go and finish this up by updating the VDOM that is going to be returned. So I'm basically going to say if it's loading, then I'll just show a little loading message. If it has failed, then I'll just write total failure. If not, then I'm going to go and just put a list with the results, with the address, and then the so in the way that this kind of works is that in the results I get back, the result.address is actually going to be the name of the location, the coffee shop, and then the place address will be the address location for the shop. It's a little, this is a little misleading in some ways, but it is for searching for like places. It just kind of comes up that way. So yeah, there we go. Then you can see here on the screen that it's going to display my 10 results I got from my template. And like I said before, what's really neat is that now this widget set up to read the data from this template this way, but I could also create another widget that can read the same template and display the data differently. Or maybe I want to display the data on a map instead of displaying in a list. That could be something really useful as well. All right, so there's a lot of different ways you can take advantage of these resource templates. I guess they're really nice because they're small, encapsulated, and completely reusable throughout your applications.